Thank you very much, Senator King. Just following up on Senator King's questions and this threat issue, it would seem to me that kind of, if we want to be practical about it, as he said, we're not going to have, most likely, not every member is going to have around-the-clock detail unless there is an actual threat. And so there's two ways of looking at it, depending on the resources. One is to change the level at which that's considered a threat, to perhaps scoop in more people sometimes for periods of time. And the second is for events that are publicly noticed or things that are a bit higher risk, that those are the ones that we're really focused on in terms of having that. And higher risk to me is more like people know you're going to be there, as opposed to some meeting that is not even publicized or something like that. So that is, I just think we have to be a little more practical about how we look at these things. And I have found our local police to be good when we call them ahead of time, but we don't even think about it ahead of time sometimes, about if things are out there or they are planned. But I think that's what we need to do. And I don't know if you want to expand on that a little more.
So you've hit the nail on the head, because oftentimes we don't know what's on your schedule or what's on any member's schedule unless they share it with us. And when they share it with us and say, hey, we've got a big event back home, expecting 500 people or whatever, we can be proactive. The U.S. Capitol Police will reach out to the local jurisdiction there, let them know about the event, and see what they can do to assist at the event, even if it's just having an officer stand in the back of the room. Oftentimes, they're able to help us at events like that. The key is having the member staff reach out to us and let us know. We'll do the rest.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One of the things I mentioned earlier on that we're trying to work on is this bipartisan proposal, hopefully by the end of the year, to allow for the removal of members' personal information from public websites. We just did it for the federal judges. Could you talk about how that could be helpful when it comes to home addresses?
It would be a huge help. There's no question about that. As you know, we will provide members and staff advice. Especially, we've just finished doing the new member orientation, and we talk to them about social media and about what to put on social media, what not to put on social media. But just to sort of help with that. But removing personally identifiable information of members really would impact not only the member, but it would impact their family. Just keeping people's address and all this other personal identifiable information from being public would have a huge impact. And unfortunately, as we all know, the internet makes it very easy for people to find addresses and find information. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that information is used to harm folks too often.
Right. And I think it's not, the question to ask is not, could anyone ever find it out? Because obviously some sophisticated people could figure out where you live. It is more for that moment, the person that might be just looking to harm in a particular day or moment. And I think many of us understand that, and that you're not probably limiting all your risk, but you're limiting some of your risk.
Anything helps.
Yeah. So you mentioned that the department is expanding its work beyond the Capitol in response to the threats, including opening field offices. I know Florida, California, I think one more, working with U.S. Attorney's Office across the country. Last year, the Capitol Police referred 458 threat cases for prosecution. 40 resulted, and I know part of this is to prioritize. 40 resulted in prosecution. Part of this is increasing the number of those cases that are prosecuted. As a former prosecutor, I always believe that has a deterrent effect as well. So talk about your efforts there. I would like to allow for these prosecutors to be able to do things across state lines and the like. Talk about what's happening there.
So that we have been working with our appropriations folks to give us the funding to not only do the residential assessments and work with our law enforcement partners, but this third leg of the stool is the prosecutions, and I couldn't agree more that it has a deterrent effect. We do have special United States Assistant Attorneys, and they're specially assigned to work these threat cases. And we're working with DOJ to allow them. We're hopeful that we can get DOJ to say it's not just they work them in that area, in the San Francisco area or the area in Florida, but they can go across state lines and work them anywhere we need to work them. We just brought on board the third special USA to work here at the Capitol in D.C. So that will help us for cases here. But it would be nice to be able to send them anywhere we need to send them so that we can get more of those cases prosecuted. Look, the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office are very helpful, but they have a huge caseload, and for us, a threat against a member of Congress is our highest priority. It's not always their highest priority. So if we have our own folks to make sure these things get prosecuted, I think it's a big step in the right direction for us.
Mm-hmm. Good. Last question. I know you've made significant progress implementing each of the recommendations in this committee's joint report with Homeland Security to address the security planning and response failures that we saw on January 6th. What are your ongoing priorities for security at the Capitol in the coming years?
So probably the biggest issue is working with the architect of the Capitol to make those infrastructure changes and strengthen things. To include the camera system, which we're redoing. We've got more posts covered here than we've had certainly since January 6th. We've increased the number of our civil disturbance unit platoons. They are now fully equipped, fully trained. We have, as you know, better operational planning. And our partnership with our local agencies around the District, Maryland, and Virginia is really helped us numerous times, whether it was the trucker convoy, the State of the Union, the abortion protests at the Supreme Court. We've had to call them in on a number of occasions, and again, our ability to reimburse them gives us an advantage. But we've always had as many cops here as we need to get the job done.
All right. Thank you. Senator Blunt?